So my name is Melissa Guzman. I grew up in Falls Church, Virginia, in an apartment complex. It was very, very small, very poor background, but I feel like regardless, we were happy where we were at. I have a whole bunch of siblings. We were all living together in a 2-bedroom apartment. I honestly, truly remember my dad in the backyard. He loved animals. I think we sometimes refer to him as Dr. Doolittle, just because, he loved animals. So I just remember in our backyard, we had a bird's nest, and a whole bunch of birds would just always come over there. My dad would feed it. We had a next door neighbor who had a bunny. So we had a fence where it would be kind of open, so the bunny would just kind of come through in and out. We never really had a pet growing up. We ended up finding a lost dog and then had to give it back afterwards. But growing up, I was very grateful again for everything that I ever had. It was the small moments for me. It was never really about gifts or anything. It was just the memories that I would have as a little girl. So I just remember my dad always taking us to creeks and ponds, and we would just throw rocks in the water. He would take us jogging with him. He would take us on bike rides. At the end of the day, again, it was just all about making memories with him. And even when he did take us out, it may not have been like the most expensive spot, but it was just the thought that counted. My dad has always cleaned houses, cleaned offices, so he kind of has his own cleaning business. Very small, but the people that he knows have entrusted him, and they've just sent out referrals. Mom, she came from Guatemala, and she ended up studying here. And she got her associate's degree as a teacher, and so she's been a teacher assistant ever since. When we were very young, well, our family, both families, both my mom and dad are from Guatemala, and so we have the Catholic background. I actually remember going to Guatemala personally, flying out there and getting baptized. We had communion and everything. That was something really big in our family. But yeah, we came from a church background, but it was never anything consistent. It was, just here and there. Have communion, and that's pretty much it. We ended up moving later on into a bigger town home, which is a 3-level town home. And for us, we were like, oh my gosh, from a 2-bedroom to a town home with 3 levels. And we were just so excited. And we fell in love with that area too, Fairfax. That's kind of where I grew up. I went to elementary school, and then in 6th grade is when my parents officially separated and moved to Centerville, Virginia, and we've lived there ever since. At the age of 13, we started we had been to many churches. My mom ended up taking us to this Spanish church, which for me, Spanish was never my first language. So there I met a guy. I would say my first actual boyfriend. We dated for 11 months, but he was a church guy and everything. I said, okay, definitely want someone who believes in God. So obviously he ended up moving. That didn't work out, but he ended up moving next to this guy who actually used to go to middle school with. And so it's funny because I had mentioned to him before that, I had this crush on this one guy, and then he happened to be moving next to him. So when he moved, the guy ended up calling me, and he said, hey, do you have, this guy's number? I've been trying to keep track of him. I just want to keep in touch with him. And I said, yeah, sure, I'll give it to you. That's kind of how we started talking. And so, I didn't really personally know him, but we just kind of, started talking, started dating. I wasn't really sure what I was getting myself into. I kind of just wanted to be loved, and I kind of felt that that's what I was getting from him at the time. And so I was 14, I was young, I had no idea what I was doing. I wanted to be loved and just didn't want to be alone, because my mom being a single mom, she just was never home. She was always working, and didn't really feel like I get much attention from her. So I guess that to me, the relationship kind of filled the gap. And so, we both ended up having sex. I lost my virginity. And I wasn't happy about it, because again, I believed in God and I knew that I shouldn't have done that, but it's just what happened. So we dated for about 2.5 years, and then I found out that I was pregnant with my daughter, who is now 14 years old. And so, his family was very, very happy. My side of the family wasn't so much, but I did have the support of my dad, which is something that, I think as a daughter it's great to have a support from your dad. And so, he didn't like what I did, but he's like, I'm gonna support you. Like, whatever this baby needs, like, we're gonna be there to support it. And so that really made me feel really good to know that I didn't have to feel like I was gonna be shut out. And so, our baby was born. I loved it. It was a girl, my first baby. And so from there, I feel like our relationship kind of got rocky. Again, we were both young. We didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. We didn't really know what we wanted. We ended up just hurting each other. So it was more so like, you hurt me, I'm going to hurt you, kind of payback type of thing. And so we ended up kind of still messing around at the time, even though we weren't in like an actual relationship. And so at that time, I kind of was just living a crazy lifestyle. I want to say 18 years old, and I was just partying, I was drinking, I was sleeping around, and I remember finding out that I was pregnant. And so, the people that I had around as friends pretty much told me, you know what, why don't you just get an abortion, because you clearly don't know who the dad is, and you don't need this right now. Like, this drama, you've been through enough in your life, especially with the father not really being around. And so I decided to go into an abortion clinic. I wasn't, again, really sure what I was doing, but I was just like, maybe this is just the best route. And so again, my thinking when I went into it was like, I wasn't really sure that I wanted to do this, but because I was too scared of looked at like, a whore, or like, not accepted by my family, or just judged, I just didn't want to hear that. I didn't want to feel that. So I went in with one of my old best friends and a guy, which, I had been messing around with because I assumed that that was the father. He said he would pay for it. So we went there. They did a sonogram. I happened to be like 6.5 weeks. So they said, because you are before 7 weeks, you're able to do the pills. There's no need to do the other options, which I was mortified when I found out what the other options were. So I was like, okay. After that happened, when I found out that I was 7 weeks, or almost 7 weeks, right then and there, I knew that the person that had brought me, that they were not the father. I knew exactly who the father was. And so I still decided to go through with it because I was so hurt. I said, he's not even there for my first child, so I know he's not going to be here for this one. So they ended up giving me pills, and they said, just take the other with you and you can take it later. Just make sure you take it with food. And so I said, okay. So I got home. Honestly, I was really scared because I didn't know what was going to happen. I just remember sitting in my bedroom and honestly just crying and just, again, just scared. I felt like it was just so foggy, like I didn't know what was going on. And so then I decided to take the pills, and I don't know how long till after I took the pills is I started to feel this excruciating pain like in my stomach. I mean, it was cramps times 100. I had never felt a pain so much before. I just remember dropping to my knees and just grabbing the sheets so hard because of the pain that I was feeling. And I remember heading to the bathroom afterwards and just using the bathroom, and I felt something come out. And after that, they told me to come back, I think a month after, so they could do a sonogram to make sure that, the baby was gone. And so I went a month after, and they did a sonogram, and they said, okay, you're good, it's gone. And so afterwards, I spoke with the nurse. I think she drew my blood, or I can't really remember what she was doing, but she asked me, she goes, and I honestly truly feel that it was an angel. She told me, she's like, well, here's birth control, like, please practice safe sex. And she goes, I hope we don't see you here again. And that hit me, because I think that's when it hit me that I shouldn't have done what I did. And obviously it was too late. So I remember I left there, and I had contacted the father of my child, and I kind of told him what happened, and he was very upset with me. He says, I think I had the right to know, but because he didn't really know what I was doing, I didn't want to upset him or, hurt him, and for him to call me a whore and all these things. So I kind of kept it away from him. And pretty much from there, I kind of felt guilty. I also felt numb. I don't think I wanted to deal with the decision that I made. So I kind of just brushed it under the rug. I actually ended up getting a tattoo over my heart because I said, this is the least that I can do, just to show my baby that they're always going to be in my heart. So I decided to get angel wings and in Roman numerals, the month and the year, which was November 2009, which is when it happened. Just to say, I'm sorry, forgive me for what I did. And it's crazy because somehow I just knew that my baby was in heaven, and again, I knew about God, but I didn't know the depthness that I know now. Growing up, I want to say, I feel like I had a great childhood. I had a dad who loved spending time with me, loved spending time with my siblings. I really didn't feel like I wasn't cared about by him. And so after my parents got divorced and we separated into our homes, I still, he still lived close by, 10 minutes away. So it's not like he was far away. And I just love that I still had that connection with him. And, when I had my children, he's an amazing grandpa, and I love that about him because the same memories that he shares with them is the same memories that he shared with me. And so it's kind of like I see my childhood through my children's eyes. Throughout my teenager years, I had my crazy years where I was, again, feeling lonely. I had hopped into a relationship super early, ended up pregnant. I, again, didn't really know what I wanted. And so whenever I was going back and forth with the father of my kids, that kind of led me down a road to not really care. I was very rebellious. I didn't care who I hurt. I was drinking, I was sleeping around, and it really affected my life as I got older, as my kids were growing up. And I really didn't I guess you say, although they didn't know what was going on behind closed doors, I felt deep down inside I didn't like the example that I was leading as a mom, as a woman. And so I remember I crashed one night and I said, you know what, I have a drinking problem. And clearly this drinking problem is my way of trying to numb all the pain that I have felt from, my past relationship. And it was also leading me to sleep around, right? It's all these different choices that I was making were all connecting. And I never really understood how or why I was struggling with a sex addiction. I really didn't understand until now, where God revealed to me that something had happened in my childhood. I had this memory where I was like, is it a dream? Did it really happen? I said, there's no way that I'm remembering this. There has to be a reason why. And I feel that when I was young, something did happen. And that led to me feeling these certain emotions at such a young age. And I really thought I was weird. I thought I was strange. I thought, what is wrong with me? Why am I this young feeling these things? And so that's pretty much what I knew as love. And so I tried to find that in other relationships, but I also didn't know how to connect well with people. I pushed people away a lot because I had been hurt so much. And that was my defense mechanism. My way to not get hurt is to not get super close. As soon as I felt myself getting close, I felt that I just needed to push away. And so throughout the time where I was dating the father of my kids, I felt that I needed to, again, just be accepted, be loved. And I just found myself in this cycle, this unhealthy cycle of doing these things. And I knew that I shouldn't have done it because I knew that I was breaking God's heart. And all I wanted to do deep down inside was to please God. But I didn't know how to let go and how to break free from this. And I honestly, truly feel just how God has been aligning things lately has allowed me to break free, has allowed me to be healed and delivered from things that were holding me back. And I give praise to God because I know that I, no longer deal with that. I'm now happily married. I met an amazing man who loves me, who loves my children. And I'm just so grateful to God because I know now that I'll be able to walk in complete freedom and complete love. I do look at my children now and I think about my baby and again, wonder how they would look like, wonder what they would be. Because my daughter's 14, my son's 11. So my baby would have been 12. So, right along the lines of all of them, which I'm like, man, that would have been great. But I guess you can say it makes me want to have more kids because I love children. I really do. I've always had a vision of having a big family, whether it's my children or it is adopting. I just always wanted a big family. I never found out what it was. Again, it was under 7 weeks. But about a year ago, I had came across Kat Kerr, an amazing woman of God, and how she was just, talking about the things of heaven. And then she talked about the babies in heaven, the ones who had been aborted, the ones, who were miscarried. And it really caught my attention. So I paid very close attention to what she was saying. And I remember that she said that, those babies are in heaven and they are waiting for you, and that Jesus is taking care of them. And that gave me so much peace to know that he's taking care of them. And I remember she said that, even if you didn't know what, gender they were, that we could choose the gender and their name. So I had a girl, my first baby, Ariella, and I remember I would love to have a pair. And so I said, okay, I would love for it to have been a boy. And it's crazy because God blessed me with a boy after him. And so I ended up naming, my son now, Jonathan, that's his name. He's 11 years old. And the baby that I had aborted, I decided to give him the name Jeremiah. And so a couple months ago, I was spending time with the Lord, and I remember hearing Krista share how she had seen her kids in heaven. And I said, I would love to know what he was like, or, what age. And I remember that that's something Kat Kerr mentioned too, was God knows what your favorite age in a child is, and whatever you want it to be, that's where you'll find them when you go to heaven. So my favorite age is the 4 and 5 year olds, toddler stages. I just think it's the cutest thing ever. They're, trying to put words together and they're just screaming, mommy, 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 24/7. And so I remember just spending time with the Lord, and I remember a vision or an image in my head where he placed it, and I saw a valley or just grass, and I knew that it was heaven. I remember seeing Jesus holding a little boy by the hand, and he had a baseball bat, and he said, mommy, mommy, I love baseball. And Jesus was about to take him to go play baseball. And that melted my heart so much to know that he loves baseball, and that he's waiting for me to play with him when I get there. But it just gave me, again, so much peace, confirmation that Jesus is taking care of him, and that he's playing with him just like I would have been playing with him too. And so I share that with my children. My children know, and I'm so grateful because they are such amazing, loving kids. They haven't held that against me. They love me still regardless. I told them that I had made a mistake, but God has forgiven me, and I don't need to live there anymore in that condemnation. And they're excited to also see their brother when they get to heaven.
He's going to be so much better at baseball than you are.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to catch his ball.
Yeah, because he got Jesus training him, so.
You sure aren't going to hit off of it.
So this lie that the devil presented, so what do you feel like you lost and your family lost and the world lost because he's not here?
I feel like this world needed him. I mean, God creates all of us with a purpose. I feel when we as women try to take away someone's life, we're taking away their purpose that God had created them to come here for. Again, I try to imagine what life would be like with him here. I know it would be 10 times better. I mean, I don't really know how to put it into words. I just know that life would just be so much better with him here. Again, if I had to do it all over again, I would have never done that. And, you know, again, to any moms who may be in that position right now, who are trying to decide what they should do, I want you to know that your baby has a purpose just like you. And regardless if you feel scared, regardless if you feel like you don't know how you're going to do it, how you're going to be able to provide for your baby. I was a single mom for pretty much all the years of my child until this very day. It wasn't easy, but it's so worth it because your kids still love you. You know, they don't look at you because, oh, you can't buy me this, you can't buy me that. They really genuinely just want to be loved. And the only way we can give that to them is, you know, by allowing them to live and allowing them to walk into God's purpose, and just know that God is with you. Again, nothing catches him by surprise. So the fact that you're pregnant and expecting, he knows that. So if you just place your trust in him and you allow him to lead you, he will put the right people in your path and he will take care of you guys. I want to say the healing started the first time I saw Chris Alicia's video on Elijah Streams. I watched it. I was honestly just in awe. God has amazing ways in how he works. His timing is perfect, even though we may not feel that it's perfect. And although it's been, 10, 11 years, and I'm now just getting healing, it was a perfect timing. Because, you know, he's allowed me to share my story amongst other women who are sharing their stories as well. And that gave me confidence to actually go onto my Instagram and actually share my story. And I didn't really care at that point what people thought. And I knew that we were in the middle of a spiritual warfare with, you know, Roe v. Wade being turned over. And again, it's just perfect timing. I just felt such a weight lifted off of me when I shared. I had a lot of women reach out to me and tell me that they also had an abortion and they haven't really spoken up about it. And they were encouraging me to just continue speaking out. And they were proud of me, even though I don't actually know these people, they just follow me. But I also reached out to them and let them know, hey, you know, I appreciate your support, but it doesn't stop here. Like, if you shared this with me, like, feel free to share it with everyone, right? Because that way God can also set you free. And I feel like the more and more that I shared the story with others, the more God just kept healing that area. And I truly feel that he's sealing it this weekend. First thing, I definitely would just love to meet Jeremiah and just tell him how much I love him. And I know he loves me too. And I know that he's forgiven me. So, you know, I don't need to ask for that anymore. I know he's forgiven me. And I just would want to spend time with him, you know, just get to know him, get to know what his favorite color is, get to know what he's been doing this whole time up there. And that, you know, his siblings cannot wait to meet him as well. And I just, honestly, I just never want to let him go. I would tell the girl who may be in the same position, and although all our stories are different, regardless if you've been, you know, a victim of abuse, sexual abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, you do matter. God does see everything. Nothing goes, you know, with like bypass him. Like, he sees and knows all things. He never desired that for you. That was definitely the enemy trying to break you, trying to tear you down, trying to make you feel worthless. But you are worthy. You have a purpose. You are loved. You have a father. You have a purpose. And that doesn't make you less of a person for, what you've gone through. And you're not an accident. I know a lot of times we may feel like we are because of our circumstances or because of, the trials that we go through. But God can heal you. God can heal your pain, your trauma, your memories. You don't have to continue living with that any longer. And it is possible to honestly start a new life. You don't have to be born again, go back into your mom's room and come back in order to have a new life. You can choose to have a new life with Jesus. And I just want to tell all the women out there to just be strong, right? Don't lose hope. God's got you. God loves you. You're not alone. I know that's something that a lot of times we may feel that we are alone. We may feel that we're the only person going through this or struggling with these certain thoughts. I felt like that for a very, very long time. I thought that I was, again, weird or strange or odd. And, I thought I was the only person going through all this. And thanks to this, amazing Speak Life project, I have met amazing women who have made me feel like family, made me feel like I'm not alone. And again, you don't have to be judged by the mistakes that you've made. That's what I love about Jesus, is that Jesus looks at us as a new creation, and he doesn't judge us from our past. He honestly looks into our future because he has so much more for us.